a bit of an odd day yesterday as Za'Darius Smith, the Viking star edge rusher, tweeted out basically a thank you and goodbye to Vikings fans, Goal Nation, all that stuff, his teammates, coaches, the entire organization. Basically, it read like the team was cutting him or trading him or all that stuff, even though he has 2 years left on the 3-year, $42 million contract that he signed last offseason. But then Rap Sheet pushed back on that, where he's saying that Vikings Pro Bowl pass rusher Za'Darius Smith informed the team that he wants to be released. I'm told the team has no plans to do that. The situation remains unsolved. And why would the Vikings look to release Za'Darius Smith? They have a guy who still can play some good football despite the injuries. He was an elite edge rusher last year, and he's got 2 years remaining on his contract at very favorable rates for the Vikings. So why, in God's green earth, why would they even consider releasing him, right? So I wanted to go through, because basically what this boils down to, Za'Darius and his agent signed a horrifically bad contract last offseason with the Vikings. And I said at the time, because people were freaking out by the fluffed up numbers, 3 years, $42 million, but no, it really was a bare bones, just like hollow contract, and Za'Darius ceded all the power to the Vikings the last 2 years. So I feel bad for him, but also he has no one to blame but himself and his agent. All right, so walking through. End of last season, Za'Darius in 2021 had back issues, played one regular season game, played one postseason game, got 2 sacks on Jimmy G, by the way, as the Packers lost at home to the Niners. But the Packers let him go to clear some cap space, $27.6 million, yada, yada, yada. And then he had free agency, and he actually agreed in principle to a deal with his former team, the Baltimore Ravens, who originally drafted him, and then he signed with the Packers as a free agent. But they, in principle, agreed to a 4-year, $35 million deal worth up to $50 million with incentives. So it could max out at $12.5 million per year, right? But then Florio gets into this. After Von Miller, Chandler Jones deals became public, Za'Darius Smith backed on a Ravens return. So Von Miller signed with the Bills, Chandler Jones signed with the Raiders, got paid, and then Za'Darius is like, let's get a little bit more. Lisbeth wrote on March 20th, 2022, linebacker Za'Darius Smith had a 4-year, $35 million deal with the Ravens, max $50, until he didn't. Many are still confused as to what happened between Smith and the Ravens, so we tried to figure out what transpired. Per a source with knowledge of the situation, Smith and the Ravens had agreed on a contract per the basic terms, 4 years, $35 million, with incentives that would have pushed the deal to a Old Valley. Then the player decided to back out. After he saw what Von Miller and Chandler Jones got paid, he was just like, nah. And then a couple days later, Za'Darius signs with the Vikings, and super excited about it. 3 years, $42 million deal, max of $47 million with incentives, and that averaged out to more per season, $14 million, than what he would have got with the Ravens if he would have maxed out the 50 at 12.5. So yeah, it's a good way to save face. You got more on paper than what the Ravens would have offered you, and the thing about contracts in the NFL, it's all about guarantees. Like, that is the only thing that matters. How much is the guarantee, and when does the money guarantee? Because if the money is all pile driven into 1 year, it's a 1-year deal. If it's spread out into the back end of the contract, then it actually could potentially be a multi-year deal, even though most of the time is toilet paper on the back end. And if you actually break down his contract, it's super reasonable. I was hyped that the Vikings were able to get Za'Darius on this contract, but I said at the time, it was a bad deal, because people are freaking out. I was like, $42 million for a guy who can't stay healthy. It really was a 1-year, $6.45 million deal. That's it. That's it. He had the $5 million sign-in bonus. That's whatever. And then his $1.45 million base in 2022. He had some sack incentives that he hit, but that's really it. Like, if Za'Darius was bad, like if Za'Darius Vernon Golston, the 2022 season, the Vikings could cut him like that. They'd only be out the 6.45, and they could get rid of him before the third day of the new league year, when $5.05 million of his 2023 $9.45 million base would have been guaranteed. So, I mean, the Vikings had all control, like full control. And again, it feels like the only reason Za'Darius signed this $42 million deal was to save face because the Ravens deal fell apart, because it would have been embarrassing to him as a player and to the agents if, hey, we had this 4-year max of $50 million deal with the Ravens ready to go, but we asked for more money, and then the deal dissolved. We're just going to sign here with the Vikings, 1 year, $6.45 million. That wouldn't have flew. Although it would have worked out better for him, because imagine if Za'Darius Smith was an open free agent right now. Just imagine, man. But his $9.45 million base, which he's due in 2022, hence one of the reasons why he's seeking a release, it's a fraction. It is a fraction of what the elite edge rushers are getting. I mean, you look at TJ Watt, you look at Joey Bosa, you look at Myles Garrett, making 25, 27, 28 million per season. And also, look at the guarantee at signing. So again, Za'Darius' guarantee at signing with his 3-year deal, $6.45 million. You look around, $80 million, $75 million, $43 million, $60 million. So it's ridiculous. It was a complete toilet paper contract, and everyone knew it at the time. And if Za'Darius outperformed the deal, which he certainly did, there's going to be problems. But the problems that Za'Darius created. Right? And Za'Darius, like I said, was a problem for offenses last year. Made the Pro Bowl, 78 regular season pressures, 4th in the NFL, 53 regular season hurries, 2nd in the league behind only Micah Parsons. And even though he banged up his knee against the Bills, wasn't really the same dude after that. 9.5 of his sacks were in the first 8 games of the season, and he was playing at a Defensive Player of the Year level, but it was still pretty damn good. 10 sacks, 2nd on the team behind Daniil, 19th in the league, 84.7 PFF pass rush grade, 7th in the NFL, so it's not like he still can't bring it, even though he is on the wrong side of 30. And that's the thing, too, because even with all the posturing of Za'Darius listing and selling his house and the goodbye, which basically was just disguised as a leverage ploy to try and get the Vikings to release him, they could still take care of him. Like, they could freshen up this contract. They could have it be incentive laden where he gets up to that elite 15, 18, $20 million a year range for edge rushers if he's healthy. And that may have to be the concession, because he may just want to be released. The Vikings would never do that. Well, he has amazing trade value because of the year he had, as well as this contract, even though his new team probably would be looking to revise his deal. But the Vikings have all the leverage here, and Za'Darius could want his way out of town all he wants and maybe want a better contract, but it is what it is. I mean, the Vikings have his rights for the next 2 years, and if the Vikings and Kwesi want to play hardball, it could be like, you either play for us or you play nowhere. And for Za'Darius, he has to be excited about the revamping of the defense, playing for Brian Flores. He's going to get even more pressures, even more sacks. So schematically, this is going to work. Plus, he was a locker room leader last year, man. Easily could slot in as a defensive captain in 2023. So he can still be that dude, but the problem is the money. And the money is the contract. And he signed the contract. Again, it would have been much better, even though, sure, it would have been embarrassing, where after the $50 million Ravens deal fell through, you signed a 1-year, $6.45 million deal with the Vikings, but it would have worked out. It would have worked out. And I always implore this to players, like, don't sign lengthy extensions where there isn't heavy guaranteed money. Like, he should have signed a 1-year deal, maybe 2 if there was guaranteed money in the second one. But once guaranteed money runs out of these contracts, it was 3, 4, 5, 6-year deals, the team has full control. Plus, your base salary is going to get lapped because the market keeps continually refreshing itself as the salary cap goes up and guys get paid. So, I mean, the only person who wins with Za'Darius' $3 or $42 million deal is the agent. So you can be like, hey, look, we got $42 million, $14 million per, versus what it actually was, a cheap-ass deal with window dressing. And now the Vikings have ultimate control over Za'Darius, and all he can do is posture in the media, try to win in the court of public opinion, which is really hard to do, and then also potentially hold out. That's it. That is it right now. But we'll see what happens. Like, I want Za'Darius Smith back. I think that he was an absolute stud last year. I think that he could certainly thrive in Brian Flores' new defense. I want to keep him. I want to extend Daniil Hunter forever. And I think that Za'Darius could have a monster season in Brian Flores' defense. And you know what? If he does that, let's tear up this contract and then get him accurately paid, or trade him to someone who will accurately pay him. But I don't know. Like, just when you thought that there was going to be a drama-free offseason, no, we got this. We got this. Great. Your thoughts are thoughts. Za'Darius Smith signed a horrible deal. Horrible contract last offseason. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.